wildlife trade and wildlife markets are connected to this pandemic we are facing today?
Well, this is because of human activity, just as you said. You know, scientists believe that the coronavirus that started the pandemic jumped perhaps from one wild animal to another and then to people during the process of a human activity, which is wildlife trade. Wildlife trade brings wild animals into close and unnatural proximities with each other and with people. In nature, millions of viruses exist in the bodies of these animals, and there is no problem for them. But you know, when we put them in the entire production process of wildlife trading, catching from the wild, transporting them, caging them, trading them, selling, buying, slaughtering, killing, the whole process, you know, it's a disaster. It's a ticking time bomb for people. And that exposes humans to unknown virus for which we have no immunity. That's exactly what happened now.
Yeah, and Grace, when people talk about these markets, especially with reference to China or tropical markets, they often use this term wet markets, right?
Yeah.
I come from a tropical country, India as well, and a lot of my markets in India are rather wet. And I'm not talking now of monsoon downpours and markets getting wet, but sitting in a sterilized world in the West where a banana comes wrapped in a plastic covering in a supermarket, one thinks of the unhygienic conditions that one is facing in wet markets as something different and exotic. So what is a wet market? And before I ask you that question, really, I want to go back to something that I've been working on, and I've been working on for the last 25 years. And even before I met you, I was investigating many of these trades in wildlife crime, IOP and rhino horn and tiger bone coming out of India, musk and bear bile. And a lot of these investigations brought me into China, into Japan, into many parts where the wildlife trade was going on. And I am writing a lot about this. The lockdown makes you do things like this. And I have not really dealt with this topic in great detail till now. But I was just looking at what I've written, and there's a passage I want to read out of a wet market. And then I want to ask you what you think of it. And this was in China in the early 90s when I went in looking for bear bile and musk trade at that stage. I'm now reading out from an unpublished book. It was better to be early than late. I had to find the Haiyan Road wet market. And the road from the Garden Hotel where I was staying needed to be sussed out. I spent time walking back and forth to know the streets well. It was good to know the streets and alleys. That was the most important thing if a quick getaway was in order. By the time I reached the market, noon was just a clock tick away. Men had begun to hunch up on plastic stools at the noodle shops around the forecourt. The ones that people were ordering seemed to look like fish soup. They had fish balls in a cloudy soup with a bun on the side. I seemed to have the pleasure of having a crab claw stuck in mine. It stuck out like a red paper parasol on a tropical drink. Perhaps they gave it to me because I was a foreigner. Maybe because I stood out. Not a nice thought.